Everything began in absolute darkness. Before Earth, this was a place of void and cold. No planets, no boundaries, no day, and no night. There was only a massive cloud of gas and dust drifting aimlessly among the stars. That cloud was the remnant of stars that had died long ago. Then, an event occurred, perhaps a shockwave from a nearby supernova. The fragile balance was broken. Gravity began pulling everything toward the center. The cloud collapsed, spun, and heated up violently. In the eye of that storm, the sun ignited. The first solar wind blew through, sweeping the lighter gases to the edges of the solar system. Staying behind, where we stand now, were only the heavy dust particles. They were silicates and metals, the first bricks of this world. Over the next few million years, the universe played a game of probability. Dust particles collided. Instead of shattering, electrostatic forces held them together. From dust as fine as flour, they clumped into pebbles. From pebbles to boulders. From boulders to massive asteroids. When they reached sufficient size, gravity entered the fight. It greedily sucked in all surrounding matter. This was not a peaceful construction. It was a war. Billions of collisions happened continuously. Every rock crashing into the early Earth carried immense kinetic energy. They converted into heat the moment they hit the ground. Earth at this time was not a blue rock, but a sphere of liquid fire. The surface was a magma ocean boiling at thousands of degrees Celsius. There was nowhere to stand, no air to breathe. In that infernal furnace, the planet's structure was defined. The heaviest materials, like iron and nickel, sank to the center. They formed the planetary core, dense and hot. Lighter materials, like silicate rocks, floated to the top, forming a fragile crust. This separation was the world's first order. Just as Earth began to cool, and the black rock crust had just hardened, disaster struck. Another planet was forming in the same orbit. It was about the size of Mars today. We call that intruder, Theia. The early universe was too cramped for two planets to exist in one place. Collision was inevitable. Theia slammed into Earth at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. It wasn't a head-on collision, but a fatal glancing blow. The energy released was greater than billions of atomic bombs. Theia was completely pulverized and vaporized. A large part of Earth's crust was also ripped apart and blasted into space. Earth survived, but was deformed and spinning in chaos. Molten matter from the collision formed a ring of fire surrounding the planet. It looked like Saturn's rings, but glowing red with heat. Over time, gravity did its work again. It gathered the debris in that ring. From the ashes of the collision, a new celestial body condensed. The moon was born. Back then, the moon was very close to Earth, only about 20,000 kilometers away. It was gigantic in the sky, red and threatening. But this companion saved Earth. The moon's gravity acted as a great anchor. It held Earth's rotation axis steady, preventing the planet from wobbling wildly. Thanks to the moon, Earth tilted at a stable angle. That stability was the prerequisite for future seasons and climate. The collision that nearly destroyed the planet ultimately became the thing that built it. The Earth-Moon system was formed, alone in the vast universe. The storm temporarily subsided, and the ground began to wait for the next changes. After the moon formed, Earth was left in loneliness and heat. The planet's surface slowly cooled down. The glowing red magma crust began to turn black and petrify. The sky then was not blue like today, but thick and suffocating. The atmosphere was filled with water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur, and nitrogen escaping from volcanic fissures. The air pressure was dozens of times heavier than it is now. When the surface temperature dropped below the boiling point, a magnificent event began. Water vapor in the atmosphere condensed. Giant clouds completely blocked the sunlight, and then the first rain poured down. It was not a passing shower. It was a deluge that lasted for millions of years without ceasing. Water poured onto the hot rocks, hissing and evaporating back up, but the rain kept falling until the ground was cool enough to hold the water. Water filled the valleys, the impact craters, and the giant basins. The primordial ocean was born from that. But this ocean was unlike any sea we have ever seen. The water was hot, nearly 100 degrees Celsius. It was not turquoise, but olive green or reddish brown, because it dissolved massive amounts of iron and metals from the young rocky crust. The seawater at this time was highly acidic and extremely toxic. While the ground was trying to stabilize, the universe sent another challenge. About 4 billion years ago, the solar system went through a final chaotic phase. Giant planets like Jupiter and Saturn shifted orbits, disturbing the asteroid belt. Millions of meteors and comets were flung toward Earth. We call this period the Late Heavy Bombardment. The sky was lit up by ceaseless streaks of fire. The ground, just cooled, was plowed up again. Seawater evaporated en masse after every major impact. But this rain of bombs brought a precious gift. Comets crashing into Earth brought immense amounts of water to replenish the oceans. More importantly, they brought carbon and organic compounds from deep space. When the bombardment ended, Earth became more peaceful, but completely different. Water now covered almost the entire surface of the planet. Only small volcanic islands remained, jutting out amidst the vast expanse of water. Beneath the surface, the Earth's crust began to crack into large plates. They drifted, collided, and subducted under one another. That was the beginning of plate tectonics. This process activated the planet's most important machine. It was the natural thermostat. Volcanoes erupted, pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, warming the Earth through the greenhouse effect. But when it rained, water washed the carbon dioxide from the air. Acid rain reacted with rocks on the ground, locking carbon away in sediments on the ocean floor. This process reduced greenhouse gases and caused Earth to cool. If the planet got too hot, it rained more to cool it down. If the planet got too cold, it rained less, and volcanoes warmed it up again. This cycle worked slowly but persistently over billions of years. It kept Earth's temperature always fluctuating, within the range that allowed water to exist in liquid form. This is the prerequisite that neighboring planets like Venus or Mars failed to achieve. By now, the physical stage was complete. A rocky planet with an iron core and a protective magnetic field. A vast ocean rich in minerals. A thick atmosphere and an automatic temperature regulation mechanism. All ingredients were in place, waiting for random chemical reactions. The world at this moment was a giant laboratory, silent and humid. The primordial ocean was a giant chemical soup. Molecules floated and collided randomly for millions of years. At deep-sea hydrothermal vents or in shallow coastal pools, a new order was silently forming. Fatty acid molecules with hydrophobic properties automatically clumped together. They formed microscopic closed bubbles. For the first time, the world had a boundary between inside and outside. Inside that fragile membrane, the chemical environment became stable. Complex chains of matter formed and began a strange behavior. They replicated themselves. The replication process was not perfect. It was full of errors, but those errors were the key. Whatever copy was stable survived. Whatever was weak disintegrated. Inanimate matter began to select and remember. That was the moment life was born. The first cells were extremely simple and tiny. They drifted and ate chemicals available in the seawater to survive. But natural food sources gradually ran out. The first famine threatened to wipe out the budding life. In a desperate dead end, a great mutation appeared. A new type of blue-green bacteria found a way to tap into an eternal energy source. That was sunlight. They swallowed photons, ripping apart water molecules to get energy to feed themselves. This invention changed the game forever. Photosynthesis released a never-before-seen waste gas. That was oxygen. Initially, oxygen was a deadly poison to ancient organisms. It killed off almost all life on the planet at that time. Oxygen dissolved into the ocean and reacted immediately with iron. The seas rusted and turned a deep red color. Iron oxide settled to the bottom, forming the giant red rock layers we see today. When the ocean was saturated, oxygen began to escape into the atmosphere. It swept away the murky sky of methane and smog. Earth's sky turned clear blue for the first time. High above, oxygen condensed to form the ozone layer. This invisible shield blocked deadly ultraviolet rays from the sunday. The sea surface was no longer scorched by lethal radiation. Solar energy was packaged into small cells. The environment became safer and more energy-rich than ever before. The stage was cleared to welcome more complex actors to step out. The world was flooded with oxygen and energy, but life remained just solitary cells floating around. A silent revolution began from within. A large cell swallowed a smaller bacterium. Instead of digesting it, it kept the prey to work for it. The swallowed one became a perpetual power plant inside the hunter. This cooperation created the first complex cell with a nucleus and complete structure. With an abundant energy source, cells began experimenting with living together. They did not separate after dividing, but stuck together. Division of labor began to appear. The outer group of cells became skin for protection. The inner group specialized in digesting food. Another group specialized in contracting for movement. A unified body was stronger than thousands of disjointed cells. The ocean suddenly exploded with a diversity of life never seen before. We call it the Cambrian explosion. Strange creatures with all kinds of shapes appeared everywhere. There were soft species like jellyfish drifting lazily. There were species anchored to the seabed to filter water. But the peaceful era of filter feeding ended. A terrifying behavior was born: predation. Creatures began eating each other to seize energy quickly. The brutal battle for survival was officially activated. The pressure of being eaten forced prey to evolve or perish. A biological arms race took place frantically on the seabed. To defend themselves, prey developed hard shells and sharp spines. To attack, hunters developed sharp teeth and strong muscles. Primitive nervous systems formed to react faster to danger, and the ultimate weapon appeared. A patch of photosensitive cells curved inward and gradually formed a lens. The first eye opened, looking into the murky ocean. For the first time, life saw the world and saw the enemy from afar. The sighted hunted the blind. The fast swimmers caught the slow ones. The ocean became a bloody but vibrant arena. Every corner of the sea was occupied. Life had completely conquered the water world with complex and sophisticated forms. But above the waves, the continents remained desolate and silent, waiting. The ocean had become too crowded and fierce. Meanwhile, the continents remained a silent and empty land. The first pioneers to leave the water were plants. Moss and ferns clung to bare rock, turning it into fertile soil. Green began to spread over the grey wastelands. Underwater, fish living in shallow swamps began to change. Their fins grew bones and muscles to push their bodies through the mud. They breathed the atmosphere directly, instead of filtering through gills. The first steps onto land were incredibly heavy and clumsy. The naked skin of amphibians still needed the moisture of water. Their eggs still had to be laid in ponds, or they would dry out and die. The chain binding them to the ocean had not yet been completely broken. But nature did not stop. A magnificent biological invention appeared to liberate life. That was the hard-shelled egg. Inside the shell was a miniature lake surrounding the embryo. Creatures could now carry their own ocean with them wherever they went. They ventured deep into arid continents, conquering high mountains and deserts. Life officially took over this planet. Looking back at that journey, we see a miraculous story written in stone. Every layer of sediment beneath our feet is a page of history, from lifeless dust particles sticking together in space, to cells that knew how to copy and correct errors, to the first eyes that saw the light, and finally, the intelligence to ask questions about itself. Science tells us how life formed, from physical laws and dry chemical reactions, but the question of why the universe arranged for inanimate matter to become conscious, life remains open. Perhaps we are the universe's way of observing and understanding itself. The story of Earth never ends. It just moves to a new chapter, and you are part of that brilliant chapter.